I'm going to start building a traditional classical guitar, well, more or less traditional. And by that I mean it'll have a center sound hole and be fan braced, and I'll use the fairly traditional Spanish heel for attaching the neck to the sides of the guitar. So when I build in this style, the first thing I make is the neck for the guitar. The body comes later. I've got this piece of Spanish cedar, 3x4 by, I don't know, 30 inches long, and it's fairly smooth, but before I start making the neck, I want to make sure that the fretboard surface is absolutely smooth. So I'm going to plane that down as my first step, and then I will rough it out to shape on the bandsaw. I use this template to mark where I want to make the cuts to rough out this neck. I can actually get two necks out of this if I cut carefully. So I've got this one this way and then another neck over here. So here's the neck roughed out to shape. Now what I'm really want to concentrate on, the first big thing, is making the Spanish heel. But before I do that, I have to figure out exactly where the peg head will end and where the nut will start, because the location of the nut, or the end of the fretboard, will determine exactly where I cut the slots for the sides going into the heel. So now I'm going to just plane this down so that I have a smooth surface, and that will define the end of the peg head. Now before I actually start slotting out and making the Spanish heel, I'm going to cut a channel in the neck for a carbon fiber reinforcement. I don't put a traditional, well, not traditional, classical. I don't put an adjustable truss rod in most of my classical guitar necks, but I do generally put a strip of carbon fiber in. This is only a 1/4 inch tall and 3/16 of an inch wide, but it's just incredibly stiff. So by epoxying that into the neck before the fretboard goes on, it just adds some rigidity, and it's not very likely for a classical guitar neck to bow anyway, but having this in there reduces that even more. So I will use my table saw to cut the channel, and then I'll start making the Spanish foot. Here's the mark where the 12th fret will lie. It's 325 millimeters from the nut, because it's a 650 millimeter scale. So that's where I'm going to cut slots into the neck block for the sides of the guitar to be put in. I don't cut them exactly on the same line as the the 12th fret, they have to come in at an angle of about 5 degrees. That's just due to the shape of the guitar body. So I will mark a 5-degree angle first, and then I'll set up my table saw to cut these slots. I've done it with hand saws. Table saws are just more accurate and reproducible. Now I don't want to cut all the way through, of course. I'm going to leave about 5/16 of an inch of wood right in the middle. So I'll make the mark like that, and that's where my saw blade will stop. So the sides will go into these 2 slots, just like this, and they'll get glued in place, and that is about as close to a permanent joining of sides to a neck as you can achieve in guitar building. There's no real joint that could ever work loose, unlike mortise and tenon joints or dovetail joints. These sides are virtually fixed forever.